And I always tell folks who ask us, why I coach, it's just, I've gotten doc students who have been working on their dissertations for 7, 8 to 8 years. And so imagine the thousands of dollars that you have thrown away in dissertation seminar credit hours and no degree or progress to show for it. And so why not work with us and we'll turn you around in 4 months and get you to that either dissertation proposal defense or your final defense. It just, I always say, what's your time worth? Hello, good people. Welcome to Done Dissertation Office Hours, where we talk with researchers and doctoral students about their educational journey and dissertation journey and all the great work that they have done or plan to do with their doctoral degree. I'm your host, Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of the Done Dissertation Coaching Program, where we demystify the dissertation process so that doctoral students can finish their dissertation in 1 year or less. Hi, this is Dr. Ramon Goings with the Done Dissertation. I want to say thank you for tuning in to Done Dissertation Office Hours. As a special gift, I want to provide you a 10 strategies to complete your dissertation in 1 year checklist. This checklist provides strategy on how to improve your academic writing, how to navigate the dissertation process, and how to select committee members to ensure that you get through the dissertation with the least amount of headache. And as an additional bonus, I'm including an audio training which augments what's provided on the 10 strategy checklist. To get access to this checklist, I invite you to visit www.dissertationstrategy.com or text #free, FREE, to 301-701-2466. Now back to the show. Today's guest for Office Hours, I'm very happy about this guest because this is someone who is speaking to a lot of things I think about as a doctoral student. Not only should we be focused of having, focusing on our research, getting ready for our dissertation, but like, what does life look like after the dissertation process, and how do we leverage our own skill sets to create businesses? And so this is something I'm always talking about, like, how do we get more students thinking about business and getting themselves into that sphere? So today's guest is Cheryl Lau, who is a doctoral student, as well as a business owner who helps entrepreneurs develop their own businesses. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation with Cheryl. So let's give a warm introduction to Cheryl. And we're going to bring her on right now. Cheryl, how you doing?
I am doing great, Dr. Goings. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And so to get started, I just want you to tell, the audience about a little bit about yourself, kind of what you are and who do you help support?
Sure. So my name is Cheryl Lau. I am currently based in Hong Kong. I am also a PhD student. I just finished my first year, and I am at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And outside of my PhD, I also run a business, and I basically help entrepreneurs to really build their coaching businesses and sign clients for their own business.
And so with that, I always like to, we find folks in doctoral programs, but there's so many things that happen before you even get to this phase and journey in your life, right? And so I always want to rewind. And so, like, have you always been interested in school? Has this been something that you always wanted to do? Or is it kind of you have something along your journey that's brought you to this point now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me take it back to quite a while ago. So when I was growing up, I've always been in a very academically competitive environment. So growing up, grades were really important. We were kind of like molded to believe that going to the most prestigious university was the way to go. So I really kind of fell into that way of thinking for most of my childhood, teenage years, thinking that I have to get the good grades, go into the best, most prestigious postgraduate program, whatever, right? And so I really followed the cookie cutter path of success. But then after I finished university, I did my bachelor's at the University of Toronto in psychology. I didn't really know what to do. And I thought, well, law school sounded amazing. So I actually went to law school right after finishing at the University of Toronto. And I actually did 1 year of law school only to realize this really isn't it. It really isn't for me.
Yeah.
So I actually dropped out after the first year, much to the dismay of people around me, especially my parents, who were so excited that their daughter's going to law school. Well, long story short, my parents were really upset. Even my peers were really confused because things looked like they were going well, right? So, but I was basically going through a quarter-life crisis when I realized, a legal career really isn't for me. So what's next? Like, what do I want to do? So after I dropped out of law school, I started dabbling in many things. I worked as a research assistant for a professor here in Hong Kong. I actually moved from Toronto to Hong Kong after graduating. So I went to law school in Hong Kong for 1 year.
Okay.
So I actually ended up working for a professor here in the social work department, and I loved it. I just really love the work that he does. I love what he stands for, and I just really thought, okay, maybe research in this field could be the route for me. And at the same time, I was also dabbling in personal branding, social media, and that's how my business came to be as well. So fast forward to today, I'm currently a doctoral student as well as a business owner.
And so, you're in your doctoral program. What about, that research experience was important for you to saying like, hey, I actually want to focus and get my doctorate now?
Mm, I think there's a few things. I think number one is that I really did like what my supervisor was doing. So the professor I worked for during the kind of like the gap years between law school and PhD,
Yeah.
I really admired his work and how he viewed, his field. I really like that he was so like passionate about the research he does and really, creating an impact through his work. I really saw that, and I really think that that led me to think, okay, you know what I want to do, create a similar impact in this way. But also simultaneously, I really like the work I did as a research assistant for this professor. I really feel like I had some strength in, I guess, writing, especially since here in Hong Kong, people's first language isn't necessarily English.
Sure.
So I really found that I had something to contribute here. So I found that a lot of my skills, my strengths in writing, academic writing, and really synthesizing my thoughts were really valued here. So I think there's a lot of skill sets that I naturally hold as a student, I guess you can say, that really I think I could contribute to the field through those skills. So I think those are the two main reasons that led me to think, okay, you know what? A research career could be it for me.
Yeah. And so, you're in a PhD program in social work. So can you talk about your kind of area of interest within the social work field? I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, so right now, although I'm still working on the research proposal,
Sure.
where I'm currently headed towards is, and this is inspired by my business actually. So I started my business before the PhD,
Okay.
and a lot of my research is actually inspired by the business. So in a nutshell, what it is that the research question I am planning to look more into is how can youth entrepreneurship increase their identity capital, and how can that increase or improve your life and career outcomes. So identity capital is kind of like we know of like social capital and human capital, cultural capital,
Sure.
but identity capital is kind of like a more internal resource that we leverage. It's kind of, if I had to use a more common term, I would actually use the word personal branding. It's kind of like
Okay.
how
Yeah.
would you use your own personal brand to like, acquire more resources for yourself, right? So I kind of, another way or how I like to personally look at this identity capital terminology is personal branding. So how can youth entrepreneurship increase your identity capital, and how can that improve young people's life and career outcomes as a result? So that's kind of the gist of it.
No, that's great. Would you consider, now this is something I'm thinking about as you're talking about your study, actually using the term personal branding and then pulling from that literature about personal branding? I'm pretty sure there's folks that are writing about that in a way that might be different than identity capital.
Mm, that's a good point. So I haven't looked into the personal branding literature just because I don't want to stray too much into the business literature, so to speak, or the business
Sure.
research, because I am still in the social work department.
Sure,
So
sure.
I am trying to like stick to literature that's more like relevant to certain populations, and also kind of like the more sociology and maybe even psychology based research. So that's a really good point, though. I
Yeah,
need to look into it.
it's just something to consider in conjunction with the social work aspect of identity, like to bring in that, because I think the best research sometimes is combining multiple areas to kind of create your own lane, which you have a unique lane already, but just to bring that in, that personal branding in, like it'd be very interesting to see what that looks like within that social work lens.
I will keep you updated if we go down that path. I think there is a potential there.
Hey, it's Dr. Ramon Goins with the Done Dissertation. And look, I know you're enjoying the episode, but I want to tell you real quick about the Done Dissertation. We are demystifying the dissertation process so that doctoral students can complete their entire dissertation in 1 year or less. With that, I want to invite you to learn more about the Velocity Group Coaching Program, which is a 4-month group coaching program that provides doctoral students the support to either write and defend their dissertation proposal or write and finish up their dissertation in the next 4 months. And you heard that right. Our students in our program are finishing in the next 4 months. if you've gone through the dissertation process alone and become very frustrated with the lack of support from your advisor and not having a support structure in terms of students in your program, we want to provide that structure for you and provide you the written feedback and support to know exactly what your professors are looking for when they read your dissertation. To learn more about the Velocity Group Coaching Program, visit www.velocitydissertation.com or text #Velocity to 301-701-2466. Now back to the show. Yeah. And with that, so, you're looking at, the identity capital that people can leverage. You say this is really centered on your business, but what kind of give you the start to even think about the importance of entrepreneurship and how that can increase or influence someone's life outcomes?
So I think to answer that question, I need to backtrack a little bit and share a bit about why I started the business. So going back to when I first left law school, I was going through my quarter life crisis and not really sure what to do. And I guess as any millennial would do, you would share about it on social media or online.
Sure.
So I actually started a small YouTube channel, which doesn't exist anymore. But I did create some YouTube videos to just document my thought process, share my experience navigating parental expectations, disappointments, and so on and so forth. And I also started my Instagram account just to document these thoughts as well. And I noticed that I was building an audience and they were asking me questions like, how did you get the confidence to share these experiences and thoughts? And that's kind of the first thing I started helping people to do for free. First, I started kind of coaching them to really build their own confidence and share their unique story and experiences. So that was the first thing I started to do in my business. And eventually my clients started to build their own businesses and they started signing clients based on the work that we did together. So that kind of escalated into the current work that I do, which is more like business coaching, so to speak. But the reason why this inspired my business is that I've seen firsthand how regardless of what your background looks like, there is a space for you on this internet space. I really believe that in this day and age of 2021, you can really build your name and reputation from scratch using social media or content marketing or content creation in general. And I think it really stems from the value that you can offer to people. So, long story short, I really think that what inspired the research is that I've seen that anyone, regardless of your background, you can really leverage this tool called social media to really create more opportunities for yourself, whether it's a coaching business, a service-based business, e-commerce business, or even just attracting job opportunities as well, like for your LinkedIn profile, for example, right? There is this resource that's available to us all, and I think that it can really bring a lot of opportunities for everyone.
So what do you say to folks, on the business side who are skeptical about getting a coach? So, I'm a dissertation coach. We've gotten that. I'm pretty sure you might have gotten that from other folks. Like, why do I even need a coach? So, like, what do you explain to people, like the importance and value of a coach?
Sure. So I can answer this question in several ways. So the first angle I want to offer, or the first thing I want to offer people to think about is if you've been trying to do something, whatever coach we're talking about, right? Regardless of the service that they're providing or the type of the service that they're providing, if you've been doing something for a long time and it's just not working out, just know that there's always another way. And that could possibly mean working with a coach. There's always another way of doing things or looking at things or thinking about things. So if what you're currently doing isn't working out or you're not liking the results of what you're currently seeing, perhaps a coach might be what you need right now, perhaps, right? There's always another way of doing things, looking at things. But I think also another thing that I really value in working with a coach is that, first of all, I think it's important to find a coach that gets you. I really believe that it's important to make sure that it's a good fit. And that means that you need to do your due diligence to make sure that the coach really is the right personality fit. They can actually help you achieve the results that you want. But I think if those things are checked off, I think that the value of working with a coach is that, for a lot of us, the reason why we work with a coach is that we have no one else to talk to about these things.
Yeah.
Right. For example, I'm assuming that for a lot of your clients, they have no one else to discuss their doctoral journeys with or to discuss their dissertations with. And that a coach is really that one person that you can go to for that particular area of your life that you really just want some more support on. So I think that's one of the very powerful things about a coach as well.
No, that's great that you mentioned that. I always tell folks who ask us, why a coach. It's just, I've gotten doc students who have been working on their dissertations for 7, 8 to 8 years. And so imagine the thousands of dollars that you have thrown away in dissertation seminar credit hours and no degree or progress to show for it. And so why not work with us, and we'll turn you around in 4 months and get you to that either dissertation proposal defense or your final defense. It just, I always say, what's your time worth? And, the amount of time that what it is, like as a first year student, think about all these hours that you're dedicating to your research. And imagine doing that for 7 to 10 years and having no degree to show for it. It's just, it baffles me. And I want to make sure that folks get that support that they need. But I'm glad that you mentioned that a lot of times if we've been stuck in a process, why not get someone who knows where we're trying to get to help us get through it?
There's always another way of doing things.
Yeah. And so for you in your business, talk about who do you help? Like, who is your typical or your ideal client?
So I typically work with anyone who considers themselves a side hustler. So if that means they have a 9 to 5, they are in graduate school, or they're a full-time parent, or just anything else in between, but they also want to build a coaching business and sign clients and really impact people through their coaching business, that's really who I help.
Sure. And then I always ask this question for folks who have business, 'cause I think this is important. Who are you not suited for? Because there might be people who may not be a good fit for you. Who's not a good fit?
People who want to build a business in a way that's really complicated. So with all the funnels and things like that, all the fancy things, all the fancy bells and whistles, if you're looking for, those kind of strategies, I'm probably not the person for you. I'm more focused on helping you build a really authentic and unique voice and content strategy that will really, it feels good to you and it's in integrity with, who you are as a person, but also it will help you build demand for your offers as well. I also, another, I guess, category that I don't necessarily work with are anyone who they are not willing to do the work and take action on their business. I know that's a very broad categorization, but if someone isn't willing to, like, if they want a quick fix, probably not for you.
Understood. And so I want to kind of mesh the two now, your business and your PhD side, right? So what, I guess, skill sets have you leveraged from your business that have been helpful for you as a PhD student?
Okay. One came to mind. So, I'm not sure if you personally experienced this when you were building your business, Dr. Goings, but for the beginning parts of my business journey, there's a lot of times when I wanted to know the exact blueprint to building my business. Like, what are the exact steps I need to do? Check, and just do it and I have clients. Like, that was kind of my mentality because I think growing up, we were told that if you get the good grades, you get these internships, these awards, these extracurriculars, and you're good to go. So I was kind of operating under the mindset of, there has to be a checklist to check off to succeed in life and in business. That's really not the case as it turns out. But when I was first starting my business, what I learned is that, these blueprints don't necessarily exist, but you can create your own blueprints. And I think when I was first starting, and there's no right or wrong blueprints. There's really no right or wrong. As long as it works for you, it works for you. And when I was first starting out my PhD journey, I was really kind of anxious because I was like, wait, it's not like undergrad where there's like a clear timetable for like my entire week. Like, my schedule looks so like it's not like as clear cut as I expected it to be. I felt really confused, to be honest, right? And one thing I realized is that no one's PhD journeys is going to look the same.
Yeah.
And that was a mindset that I had to take from my business and remember that there is really no blueprint of success to a PhD journey. I think there are definitely ways that we can speed up the process or make it a lot easier for us personally, but we have to figure out what that kind of like approach is. But there's no one size fits all journey to getting your degree.
Yeah, no, that's so important. I think a lot of folks come into the dissertation. I think this is what happens, and we can talk about this if this happened or you feel this so far. When you're taking coursework, it's very much structured in a way that you have these classes at this time, you know what your assignments are. But as soon as the coursework ends and you're writing your dissertation proposal or collecting your data, there's no schedule. There's nothing there for you. And I get a lot of students that just feel like they're out there by themselves trying to figure it out because there's not that structure. Like for you, I know you're finished up coursework. Did you feel like you had that structure? And are you even thinking about like, how do I bring structure to this dissertation that I had it when I was taking classes?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the phase I'm in right now, actually, is as soon as the coursework was over, my supervisor said, okay, work on chapter 1. was like, what's chapter 1?
Yeah,
I was actually so confused.
yeah.
And I actually spent, I think almost 2 months just reading, trying to write this chapter 1, and I had 0 words on the page. So actually it wasn't really until last month, or I think July, when I actually decided, you know what? First of all, I need to get words on the page. I really just need to write something. So I actually sat down. I didn't look at any references. I just typed from my brain. And then afterwards, I just squeezed in some citations here and there. So that was how I got a very, not the best first draft to my supervisor, but it was something, right? But that was definitely something that I felt after the coursework was done. I was like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
So that definitely feel that.
Yeah, in my book, I have a book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation. I talk about your job as a doc student is to get the quickest, sloppiest, rough draft on paper. Because at that point, we can edit and we can massage everything. But if it's not on the page, there's nothing your advisor can do. There's nothing anyone can do to help get those thoughts out of your head. And so that you taking that step was key. And I'm pretty sure now that once you've done it and you see some progress, it probably motivates you to kind of keep pushing forward with getting the writing done. Have you been going through your doctoral program just so frustrated and you're finally ready to be done? Are you tired of spending thousands of dollars in dissertation seminar credits and not having a degree to show for it? Are you tired of spending hours and hours reading through the literature and not having any progress? Are you tired of spending hours and hours of time away from your family? If this is you, I want you to get my book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, as I provide a proven framework and strategy to navigate the dissertation in record time. In the book, I share how to create a writing schedule that gets your dissertation chapters done in 1 month. I also share how to select committee members and then how to structure yourself and navigate the process so that you have the littlest headache as possible. And again, if you're tired of going back and forth with your professors trying to get through the process, I want to give you the strategy to finish in record time. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to visit our website, www.thedonedissertation.com/14 secrets to grab your copy of 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation. Now back to the and so, as a doc student, you're doing your writing right now. You're kind of in the process of getting things done. And I always ask this question to folks: what do you listen to when you write? Are you someone likes music? Do you not listen to music? Like, what does your writing setup and scene look like when you're going to sit down and write?
So I have 2 genres of music that I like. I'm a listener. I like to listen to music when I do work. I usually prefer Korean pop music, K-pop music, just because I don't know the language. I'm not Korean. So when I'm listening to like really upbeat, uplifting sounds, the words don't interfere with my, semantic processing or whatever it's called, right?
Yeah.
So by listening to really cheerful, motivating, happy K-pop music, it does keep me in a good mood, and it doesn't distract me in terms of like mixing up my words or semantic processing. But sometimes if I'm really low on energy, I might listen to more hip-hop based music.
Okay.
Just to like really hype myself up.
No, that makes sense. And so in terms of your writing, are you a morning writer, night? Do you write at night or do you like midday? What's your ideal time?
Personally, late morning and late afternoon. I do have that afternoon slump, post-lunch slump.
Gotcha. And so, you're doing your writing, you're running a business that, is growing. So how do you manage, being a doc student and running your business? 'Cause I'm sure I get a lot of folks who are interested in building a business, but they're not sure that they have the time to do both. And so how have you been able to manage?
So my philosophy when it comes to running a business, especially if you're a side hustler, is do the bare minimum. This isn't grade school anymore. It's not high school anymore where you need the A pluses. Honestly, your C-level work in your business, like your content, for example, is probably good enough. Good enough is good enough. And I think the same goes for your drafts of your dissertation as well. Like good enough is good enough for now, right? You can always edit it and tweak it later.
Sure.
But when it comes to building a business, I like to do the bare minimum, but obviously good quality if possible, but I like to do the least amount of things. So for me, for example, I use primarily Instagram to build my business, and I just post here and there several times a week on my feed posts. I do some Instagram stories every single day, but I do it so quickly, it doesn't take up that much time. So I do things really fast because it's been 2 years since I've been doing this business. So speed is really important.
Yeah.
And just not trying to perfect things. So if like I record a video and it's like, it's good enough, post. So speed, and also knowing that you're not striving for an A+ tier. It's not grade school anymore. You don't need 100%.
No, that's great. That's great. And what has been your strategy? You know, we get some folks who are doing social media things. What has been your strategy on content creation? Like, what's your approach? Do you batch create, or you just like every day I'm just going to show up in my stories and record? What's your strategy been to, I guess, save time, if you will?
So I previously, when I was more, I think the first year and a half of my business journey, I did plan out my content a lot more. But now, because I just draw so much inspiration from surrounding events, for example, my own clients, things that I observe on the internet, my own personal thought processes, I just have so many new ideas. I
Yeah.
kind of create it on the morning of. Um, but I think in terms of content tips, I think one thing I can offer is if anyone is building more of a personal brand-based business, maybe it's a coaching business, service-based business, anything where you're the face of it, I think that your content, because we hear things like create educational tips, yes, sure. Storytelling, yes, sure. Motivation, yes, sure. There's so many types of content that we're supposed to create. But I think what it really comes down to is really your unique thought, like everything inside your brain, quite literally, right? I think we try to fit our content into a mold of like educational step-by-step how-to tips,
Yeah.
or you have to tell a story and relate it back to what you're selling. Like there's so many of these rules, but I think what it really comes down to is what is inside your brain, which includes your lived experiences, your honest opinions and perspectives. I mean, your core values. There's so many things literally like inside here that I think we can see more of, especially if all your peers and colleagues are posting the same tips. I think what is really inherently unique about us is things already in here. So I like to
Yeah.
leverage that the most.
No, that makes sense. And so, yeah, you've been really like, if folks need to go ahead and follow Cheryl on Instagram. I've been very interested in, like, your story is very intriguing, like how you like bring folks along your journey. And one thing I love that you do, which is great, is like show your clients success stories, right? And so with that, because I think people would be interested in what you do, like, can you talk about some of your clients' success stories and what you've done for them to help them grow their business?
Sure. So, one of my current clients, she's her coaching business is about nutrition and mindset coaching, and she's a dietitian in her 9 to 5. One of the things that before she came to me, she have signed a few clients here and there, but it wasn't at the kind of like the price point for the value that she's offering.
Yeah.
So you can say she's a little bit undercharging for the value that she's offering. And she wasn't signing clients consistently. So when she first came to me and we started working together, we really revamped her entire content strategy and really think about her messaging, what she wants to showcase and demonstrate to her audience. And within the first month of working together, she created $5,000 in sales, US dollars in sales in the first month of working together. So that's one of the, I guess, really cool wins that
Yeah.
we created together. And similar things have happened to my other clients. Most of them are side hustlers. For example, another one of my clients, she's a new PhD student this year. She's a web designer, and she's also been signing a lot of clients. She's actually a web designer for academics specifically, or
Okay.
STEM, people in STEM. So very, very specific. And we really just like played up her strengths, her unique thought leadership, and create content from that. And that's how she's been attracting clients as well. So just some examples there.
No, that's great. That's great that you've been doing that. And so, what does life look like for you as you're finishing up your PhD and growing your business? Do you see yourself post PhD just strictly on the business, or are you going to try to do research and balance both? What does that look like for you?
My first response is I really want to try both.
Yeah.
Although I can't predict the future yet,
Yeah.
but I think I want, like at this point in time, I really want to explore both. I just can't decide right now. Both seem just so awesome.
Yeah. And do you see yourself doing more like just research? Do you want to be a faculty member? Like, what would that look like for you in terms of keeping up on the research side?
Sometimes I think about, do I just want to be a lecturer? Do I want to be a
Yeah.
faculty? Honestly, that's a hard question. I just want to, honestly, I think at the core, this like both things I do, it really comes down to which one can make a bigger impact, or make an impact in a way that feels aligned to me and even the lifestyle I want to create, right? Because I think now that I've created a business, there's more options, you can say, right? But I think first and foremost is which one can create a bigger impact in the way that feels like I'm really giving back to people, to the world around me. But that's a hard question. I really can't answer that confidently right now.
Yeah. And something I wanted to go back to, I meant to ask this when you brought it up, when you talked about your client success story and they were undercharging. This is something I get from a lot of doc students and just folks who are trying to do consulting and figuring out what to charge. What is your strategy for folks on charging? Because I think it's something as researchers, we go out and do consultancy projects. And a lot of times we're like, what do we charge? Or how do we even figure out what to charge? Or how do we base our value? So what thoughts do you have about that with charging?
I usually answer that question by saying, well, here are some general benchmarks I've heard other people talk about. That being said, I want you to start, especially if it's their first offer ever.
Yeah.
I just want my clients to pick a price that they can confidently say out loud.
Yeah.
Because if you can't back up your price or the price point that if you can't back it up confidently, there's no point, right? And also, there is something to say about demand, right? Sometimes we need to build up the demand over time before we raise our prices. So I think there's a mix of factors, but for someone's first offer that they're ever selling, I think it's really important to just pick a price point that you can just confidently say. You can always raise your price later, but I just want them to be able to confidently stand behind the price point. Even if it's undercharging for now, that's fine, right? You can always raise the price later, but just be able to back it up.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, a lot of folks. I think as you all finish up your doctorates and then you start going out in the consultant world, that price can start to go up. And if people are just trying to figure that out, so I'm glad you mentioned that. And I think that's a great strategy. One of my coaches had said, start out with your original whatever that price is, and then they're like, if you get 4 clients at that one price, double it and see what happens. Can you still sell it? If people buy it, then they value at that new price point, and keep until you kind of figure out what's the place where you get a lot of no's, and it may be at the cap for your business. And so with that, as we get ready to wrap up, I want to just talk to our doc students that watch the show, and what advice do you have for them on how to get through their programs while being busy doing everything else? Because I think, a lot of folks trying to figure out how to balance not only, family, all these other things are competing with getting through the dissertation. So what have you learned along your journey so far?
For me personally, what I think, so I guess for some context, so I started my PhD in the 2020/2021 academic year. So, this past year. And so I'm based in Hong Kong. And basically my entire cohort, or the people who are also first year PhDs, none of them were in Hong Kong for this entire academic year because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't have any peers in this program for this entire year. And I really found a lot of just like company and solace from the online community, other PhDs from around the world. And I think that's where my business or just my presence on social media has really helped me make it through the first year. It's just feeling like I have support or friendships that understand what's going on. And even mentors who get it. I think mentors and peers who understand, so important, especially if people around you physically may not necessarily understand the process that you're going through.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's tough because I started at a new university last year, and my cohort that came in as first year doc students, I know like they didn't even get a chance to see each other probably till now. So it's just that idea of building that community. So I'm glad you said you had that online support. Was that all solely through like kind of like your Instagram and people following you there, or like how were you able to build that type of community?
Ironically, I even met people locally here in Hong Kong through my LinkedIn content or Instagram content. So I actually made local friends through my content on either LinkedIn or Instagram. And of course, I made friends around the world who I've never met in person before, but now we're like good friends. So you never know who you'll meet in this internet space. Obviously, we know that social media can bring up comparisons that can have detrimental influences on your mental health, sure. But you can also choose to use it in a more productive or conducive to your well-being as well. There's always another way of doing things, looking at things.
No, that's a great point. And with that, we talk about kind of your experience in the doc program, being a first year during COVID, the start of COVID, and then what have you learned about writing so far as a first year student kind of finishing up? Were you always a strong writer coming in, or have you gotten those kind of growing pains, if you will, throughout your coursework?
I think I was a strong academic writer since undergrad, my bachelor degree.
Sure.
But where I got stuck on this year was, I guess you can call it analysis paralysis.
Okay.
And basically not getting anything on the page. That was where, and really just being so into the literature and thinking I need to know more, thinking I don't know enough to get anything on the page. That was the biggest thing. I don't know enough. I can't write anything. Biggest mistake.
Yeah, because I always say you'll never know enough. I mean, it's just so much literature written, and you start going back. It's like the black hole, and then you keep moving back and back. You'll just never, yeah. You'll know a lot of the writing. You'll know a lot about it, but then you won't have ever written anything down. I think, like you said, with your business, do kind of do the bare minimum to get yourself started, and then you can improve over time. That's a great way to apply to your writing. And with that, as we wrap up, how can folks find you on social media? How can they keep up with everything that you have going on?
Sure. So people can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active on the internet. You can find me, my handle name is at Cheryl Theory. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. You can, I'm guessing you can search my name, Cheryl Lau. That's my last name. Theory is just my Instagram name. Or you can check out my website, CherylTheory.com.
Perfect. So I will send folks in the show notes to send and find you there. Cheryl, I just want to say thank you so much for providing value to the audience, and I look forward to connecting with you behind the scenes after we chat, after I wrap up the show. But thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you for having me here, and thank you to everyone tuning in. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Done Dissertation Office Hours. I'm your host, Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of the Done Dissertation, where we demystify the dissertation process so that doctoral students can write and defend their dissertation in 1 year or less. If you are a doc student that has been going through the process and been stuck and trying to figure out a way, we have support for you. I want to invite you to apply and join the Velocity Group Coaching Program. It's a 4-month dissertation coaching program where we make sure that you either get to your proposal defense or your final defense within the next 4 months. We have a proven track record with our clients who get through in 4 months. So imagine you spending 2 years stuck, spending thousands of dollars in tuition, lack of time from your family. Imagine we could change that in 4 months. So I definitely invite you to join and work with us. You can visit www.thedonedissertation.com to learn more about our program. And if you just want some strategy and free support to get through the process, I invite you to download our Done Dissertation 10 Strategies to Dissertation Completion Checklist. You can get that by texting hashtag free to 301-701-2466. Again, that's hashtag free to 301-701-2466. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you all next week on Done Dissertation Office Hours. Stay blessed. Be sure to subscribe to our Done Dissertation YouTube page and follow us on Instagram and Facebook.